Hello and welcome once again to Virtual Vision FM, your platform to all things spiritual. We have a great show for you again today. What else is new? We have the wonderful David Eastoe from Petaltone Essences, who's going to be discussing everything about his work and then some. This is he's a very talented man with a lot of different insights and a lot of interesting wisdom that you'll want to know about. It's all organic. It's going to be fantastic. First, though, I want to bring on the lovely Nina Ashby, who co-hosts the show with me. We don't have Ted and Nick today, so it would be just Nina and I. Hi, Nina. How are you doing?
Hello, Era, and hello, everybody who's in our chat room and everybody who will be listening in our archive recording. Welcome to our show. We know that you're our virtual visionaries, and we're so happy to have you on here, and I'm happy to be here, too.
Yeah. So how are things with you, Nina? Everything going well?
Very busy with clients and enjoying my summer. We finally have summer weather here in the UK, so I've been seeing art, I've been taking walks, I've been trying to use the long days and the beautiful solar radiation to recharge my energy field. Because, we both live in high latitudes, and sometimes, leading quite a lifetime where we spend a lot of time indoors. I really like to really charge up my field at the summertime, during the summertime.
Well, aren't you good? I think that's phenomenal that you take the time to do that, because so many people don't take the time for themselves, and it's so important that we do that. Now, I just noticed, Nina, I'm sure you can see the conversation in the chat room as well, that someone is saying they can't hear the show.
Oh, dear.
So,
no. Well,
if you can hear us, just post it in the chat room. It would be a good thing to know. Otherwise, it'll be the archive version, because everything seems to be functioning for a change on our end, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm just going to write into them, write it on the thing if she can't hear.
Yeah, that would be great. Thanks. The thing that I have coming up that I'm really, really excited about is a pay-per-view event where I will be doing a group session with people all over the world. So it doesn't matter where you're located. You can still be an active participant in a group session with me and receive inspiring and encouraging messages from your loved ones who are in spirit. So that is very, very dear to my heart. I'm really excited about it. I have yet to set a date, but it's coming, so stay tuned. It will be announced on the Virtual Vision website, as well as the Virtual Vision fan page, as well as my own page. So feel free to send me a friend request or go to my fan page, Medium Era Parisian, and like the page. It's that easy. All right, so there's my little plug for this week. I'm just so excited. I just had to share.
Well, I think that it's great, and if for all of those who are new to Virtual Vision FM, I can only highly recommend Era Parisian as one of the top mediums that I've ever met. And I think that she is incredibly talented and channels through amazing wisdom, not only from those who have passed over to the other side, but is a wonderful channel of the Council of 12, and brings forth incredible wisdom. So a pay-per-view event with our amazing Era, only can recommend it for you.
Wow, I'm speechless, which is nice for a change.
Yeah.
No, really, thank you for that endorsement. That means a lot to me, and this may sound very contrived to the viewers, but this is really impromptu, and I really appreciate your kind words and your support. Thank you.
Well, you deserve it, Era.
Mm-hmm.
So now Carrie has said, oh, so she can get in the chat room. Good, okay.
Okay, so it's one in particular viewer that is having difficulty with the audio. Let's hope they get that fixed. Otherwise, it will be the archive. So we have a great show this week.
Yes.
And I can't thank you enough for bringing this gentleman to our attention, because the wisdom that he possesses is remarkable, and I'm so glad that we have the opportunity to hear him. So what I'm going to do, Nina, is I'm going to turn the interview actually over to you, and you can introduce David and start with the good stuff.
Okay.
All right.
So, David Eastoe has been known to me for about 30 years. And he is not only a friend, he was a student of mine who then moved forward in his life through many, many different experiences, which I'm sure he will be very happy to talk about. Um, he's such an interesting person and so talented, and works with his partner, who's also a very talented healer. So, David Eastoe, please show your face. I'd like to welcome you onto Virtual Vision FM.
Hi,
Hello.
Nina. Hi, it's really good to be here. I'm really happy you've asked me to be on the show. It's great. Thank you.
Yes, so, David, we'd like you to share with the viewers a little bit about your journey to how you got to the point in your life where you decided to, or where you ended up, excuse me, developing Petaltone essences, and perhaps why you call it Petaltone.
Okay, that's a good question. I never set out to do Petaltone essences at all. I started off as a musician, always been interested in the spiritual and studied from a fairly early age. But I trained in sound and music therapy and sound healing, and I was working away doing that right the way through the late 80s and into the 1990s. And in the recession, which hit the country around the 90s here in the UK, my business went suddenly extremely quiet, and I had an awful lot of time to meditate and think about what I was going to do next, shall we say. So I just put it up to Spirit, and I said, well, okay, what am I to do? I've got, I'm not going to sit here doing nothing, so give us something to do. And what I got was that I should work with plants and do something with flower essences. Wasn't my idea. I would have never thought of doing that. So I started doing it, and it quickly began to involve me in my own healing process using those tools. Because I'm one of these people who's sensitive to energies around me, and from quite an early age I've been affected by environmental energies, particularly the energies of places, buildings, particularly. I'm the kind of guy who can walk into a place, and if the energy isn't right, I would perhaps have to walk out again. And that kind of sensitivity is a two-edged thing. In some ways, it's a bit of a vulnerability. So I was looking for healing for that, amongst other things. How to cope with this, how to deal with this. So my journey with plants began by looking at ways of treating myself to help with this issue, and treating the environment around me to change the energies that I found in it.
That's really interesting point, because many of the healers and therapists that we've interviewed also talk about the same thing. They say a lot of their journey, they never started out thinking that they were going to do that kind of work, but started with a trauma or particular problems in their life, which then pushed them to investigate, research how to deal with whatever was going on with them, either sensitivity or the problems that they had with it.
Yeah, I think it does seem to be the way. I must admit, I was very surprised when I was asked to do flower essences, because although I lived in a natural environment in the countryside at that time, and my music studio was in the Chiltern Hills, a place called Broomstick Lane, interestingly, and surrounded by beautiful Chiltern Hills. So it wasn't very. I didn't have to go far to find the plants and flowers, as they were all around, and I enjoyed walking there already. So it was kind of a case of taking something I was already akin to and doing something practical with it. And so I started making essences. Of course, I had no faith in my own abilities, and I used to bring in people like yourself and other people, and Joe Holiday and other wonderful, influential people in my life who kind of could test them for me and say, yes, actually, that's rather good. It actually works. Because I would have thought, oh, what is this? You know? So, and gradually dawned on me that I was onto something.
Yeah. I remember testing out those first essences, and they were very impressive. So for the benefit of people who don't know too much about flower essences or plant essences, could you describe what that is and how you discovered they acted upon
Okay.
the,
Well,
the, the people or
yeah.
environments?
Well, I think most of us in the UK got introduced to flower and plant essences via Dr. Bach and his Bach flower remedies. I remember those being around right the way through the 1970s, and people would have a rescue remedy on their kitchen table, or they'd make you up a dosage bottle to take home with you.
Glug, 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 glug.
It's always very nice. We've got a drop of brandy with it. Enjoy that. And so, yeah, we were aware of that. And I think that Dr. Bach did us all a favour, as he brought us into the awareness that plants could be used energetically as well as physically as herbal treatments and so on. From there, I believe the next one was the Californian essences started up, and they started making some different plants that he hadn't tried. Where it differed for me is I started making them by different methods. And instead of just using the sunlight infusion method, for example, I experimented with different methods of making plant essences and also with different methods of applying them rather than just taking them internally. Now, if you look around the world at how plants are used by shamans and medicine people in tribes around the world, for example, there's one guy down in the Amazon, he calls in a plant spirit by making a little song, and it brings in the spirit of the tree to do it. And stuff like this. He doesn't have it in a bottle, but then they don't have bottles down the Amazon. So in our world, a bottle is a useful thing. And so, but I think for thousands of years people have been using plants, both as herbal remedies and as spirit remedies. And they say the shamans either work with animal spirits or plant spirits or both. The plant spirits are very much close to my heart in this and very much part of what's happening, because people are always asking me, how do you make these essences? And I say, well, you make them by having a good rapport with the plants to begin with, because that's where it starts. And the actual physical method that you use to create them is sort of like almost secondary to what you're actually doing with the plant energy itself, how you relate to it.
So, when you say that you have a rapport with the plants, could you describe how you link in to that and how it comes to you? Or obviously, like different people, we have different rapport with energetically between people, but how do you perceive that? How do you know when you have the link? How does that link evolve, and what do you then, what's your procedure for capturing it or working with them conjointly?
Okay. Well, I'm one of the people for whom nature has always contained a mystery, a kind of spiritual energy. Even when I was young, I used to look at the moonlight night with the trees and think, this is magical. There's a presence here. There's a spirit energy in this, which isn't described by any of the people around me. Doesn't seem to have a name. Doesn't seem to be recognized by my parents or the society or educators. And as I grew older, I was always wanting to be out there in it, and wanting to be out under those trees in the moonlight on the sunny day or whatever, and felt the presence of something in nature that wasn't just the physical beauty that we were seeing. And then later I began to realize that other people did recognize this and had names for it and so on. So for me, the plants did always contain some kind of energy, some kind of something that I was aware of, although didn't really know what to do with it or how to approach it. Just knew it was nice to be out there with it. And then, so when I started making the essences, I already had that link. The way I use to do all my work is simple pendulum dowsing, believe it or not. Joe Holiday taught me pendulum dancing, but I couldn't learn it. I tried to learn it. I just couldn't do it. She just showed me everything which worked. And that changed my life. So thanks to Joe, I learned the pendulum dowsing, and I just used that as a technique to get the information I need. Pendulum dowsing is a wonderful thing because it enables you to ask a question and receive the answer yes or no, and there is virtually nothing else you can do when you get a simple answer like that. And so if you construct the right questions using pendulum dowsing, it is the key. It is the key. So my first question to the plant would be, okay, how could I make an essence out of you, for example? And then obviously you have to guess. You can use intuitive idea receiving, intuition as well, visualization, things like that. But really, most of it for me was done through pendulum dowsing.
So you could ask the plant, do I have your permission to make and to connect with you and use your energy in this essence?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Well, that would be absolute first question would be, do you want to work with me? My first question is, do you want to work? It's a yes or no answer to that. So it's a yes, and then permission obviously is very important. And then afterwards, okay, how am I going? Which part of you wants to work? The flower, the root, the leaf, the stem, whatever. And if so, then how do you do it? Is it a sunlight infusion? Do you want to do something different? And actually, if you do that, you'll find some interesting. You have to use the imagination a lot to come up with some new ideas. Oh, if it's not sunlight infusion, it's not any of the things that I know how to do, then what the hell is it? It's a blank, and that is a difficult space because then you've got to imagine something that you haven't thought of before. And that's challenging.
For the benefit of our viewers, just to say sunlight infusion, we know what sunlight infusion is, but the methodology for making Bach flower essences, California flower essences, is to take, put the plant into water, filtered water, in a crystal bowl and expose it to sunlight for a certain amount of time, right?
Yeah.
And then you take the plant out, and then you mix that water, which has ingested the vibrational essence of the plant, and mix it with brandy, and then decant it, basically. Yeah.
That's the simple sunlight infusion method. Yeah, it is. And anyone who wants to have a go, you can do that. It's a very doable, very simple folk method of making an essence. And but like Nina said, you do need first of all to seek the permission of the plant, otherwise you might be wasting time. And you need to find a plant that is workable. I think the main difference between the sort of Petaltone thing and other essences physically is the fact you don't take them internally ever under any circumstances. This is very different from almost all the other essences out there. And basically you take them by evaporating a few drops from the palms of your hands into your chakras, either into specific chakras that are chosen through dowsing or into your entire aura. And that way you can also use plants that may be deadly poisonous, and you quite often do that as well, or things you really wouldn't want to take internally. And it is great because you don't have to worry about the physical chemical content of the plant.
Right. And I know you mentioned in the very earliest part of our discussion that one of the things that led you to making the inquiry was your own sensitivity to spaces. And I know you do a lot of space clearing, could you talk a little bit about the essences that you developed first of all, and then subsequently to work with space clearing, and why you think space clearing is so important?
Okay. Well, for someone like me who's sensitive to a place, I've lived in a lot of different houses, often moving into a house and finding that there were already some occupants in there that weren't on the physical plane, that weren't particularly comfortable to share with, would often mean I would have to move out. Then I used to get great people like Bob Corso will come and remove them for me, and something like this, Ghostbusters and people who are capable of doing that kind of stuff. I always thought it'd be great if I could control my own energy environment, and one of the things I was looking for when I was seeking plant essences to work with is something that would clear the energies in both my own aura, my environment, the room, the house, the crystals I've got, all these things. And I thought how lovely it would be to find something that could help with this. And I just kept trying different plants in a long experiment that lasted over 30 years to find ones that would actually do that. And eventually one turned up one day out of the blue, and boom, suddenly it did that. How do you apply that to your aura? You evaporate it the same way we're doing already, like this with the hands. How do you apply it to the environment? Question mark, sit down and douse, because I didn't know how to do it. And what came out of that was the idea of putting it in a spray bottle with some water. Now, you may have noticed a lot of people have adopted this idea that I claim to be the first person to have sold essences for spraying. And I think that that's quite an innovative thing I was getting there. So you put this one called Crystal Clear, I called it the first one, and put a few drops of that in with the water, and then that goes, spray it around the room, high up, and the kind of thing you use this kind of spray bottle, about this size, which is a bit bigger than the ones they sometimes sell because you want to get some coverage. Mm-hmm. The whole room, and you spray it around, and down comes this fine mist, and as it comes down, the essence is diffused into the environment around you, and it clears it, basically. And the Crystal Clear was the first one, and that was lovely, 1993, that one.
I can vouch for Crystal Clear. Keeps all my crystals clean, and I've got a lot of crystals.
Well, that's the other thing. For people with a lot of crystals, this is a bit of a boon. At the time, I was quite into a lot of crystals also, and I was a bit tired of the bathtub being always full of crystals. Couldn't get in the 24 hours in salt water, you know? It's 24 hours in no bathtub. So basically, we're looking at you get, half an hour with a few drops of the essence. Instead, does the same job, so it's more efficient. And then I got another one called Crystal Charge, which was charge up the crystals afterwards on another immersion. So that was really helpful as well. So from that, I went around and started experimenting with space clearing people's places who had problems with that, friends and people like Judy Hall, in fact, and himself. Judy has written many, many books on the subject since then and is a prolific UK writer, who's well known now. In those days, it was all experimental, and we were just trying out stuff to see what could be done. One of the first places I worked with was a Somerset farmhouse where the kitchen was so dark you could hardly see, it was like really dark and dingy. Always beautiful stone floors and big range and everything, but it's just dark and dingy. Sprayed it around the room, and the physical amount of the light in the room increased by about 50 to 75%, like someone had cleaned the windows. And the lady who owned the house was not a psychically sensitive person at all. But she could see the difference. Was saying, wow, 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 this is pretty good. So we knew we were onto something. It was like, okay, we're onto something here, folks. And we went around with various people trying it out and doing different things with it. And always getting good results with that one. And then started looking for more that would help. And then I got one called Astral Clear. It's a little bit more raunchy. If it was music, Crystal Clear would be harp music, and Astral Clear would be rock and roll. It's kind of Astral Clear would be raunchy, but it will get rid of some of the more nasty things that you find lurking in some places, which is useful, of course. And because living in England, I mean, let's face it, for you lot over there in Canada and the States, you've got a young country where you've only got a couple of hundred years or so of horrible history. You've got several thousand years of horrible history of wars and persecutions, religious hatred, witch burnings, God knows what going on here. So The energy around here, it's hard to find places in England where the energy is clean and clear. And I was amazed first time I went to Australia, because suddenly there was a land where the energy was almost completely clean and clear in most places, with 40,000 years of known Aboriginal use of the land, native Australian use of the landscape, up until some places even still being revered and used. And up until 50 years ago, 100 years ago, maximum 200 years ago, that country was just where it had always been for 40,000 years. And what a difference it made. Whereas here, you know, people are living out here in Somerset in houses that are 200, 300, 400 years old. I even know some people who lived in a house that was 13th century, for goodness sake. So you've got all this stuff going on that has gone on over hundreds of years. It does accumulate in the building, and it does tend to leave its mark. And, you know, Victorian times may be romanticized, and Georgian times in England, they weren't very nice for most people.
That's right. That's right. And of course, even if, you know, people leave their energetic mark in a house, whether it's good or bad, they leave an energetic mark. And once upon a time, people used to have their houses blessed when they went to a new domicile, right? But now nobody has their houses, or some people, most people don't have their houses blessed. So there's no spiritual cleansing of that environment and kind of wiping the slate clean so that a new energy can enter freely into that space.
Absolutely, that's a really good one. I quite often give a bottle of Visitor to a friend who's moving houses that they can do that before you move in. It's a great idea, it is, once we've got whatever's in there.
Absolutely.
And that,
go ahead, I'm sorry.
That 13th century house, you could really fit. Actually, that was amazing because it was so old. A king of Britain had stayed in that. I'm not sure which one. And that was so old, you felt you could have lived your whole life in it, and maybe the impression you left on it wouldn't bother the house all that much, you know, because there was so much already there. It was like, you know, kind of, wow, the layers and layers of the onion of it, you know, lots of them.
Interesting, interesting. So, while we're sort of at this juncture, I think it's a good moment to turn some questions over to the chat room. I see that Carrie has asked, if someone has an allergy to alcohol, how would one make a flower essence? So this is obviously Petaltone essences are not ingestible, so it doesn't matter, Carrie. But for if you were going to answer that question, what would you say?
Well, I'd say, first of all, we do offer an alcohol-free option for the essences using, what's the stuff called? Was it glycerin? We use glycerin as a replacement for alcohol in the dosage bottle, but there will still be minute traces of alcohol from a few drops of mother essence, which contain brandy. Whereas if you're working with someone who's, say, recovering alcoholics, whatever, they really don't want to smell it in their oral light. So the average bottle of Petaltones contains less than 20% alcohol, actually, in the actual reality of how much of it there is in there. But for people who really can't stand that smell or are allergic to it, we do offer this glycerin option. In terms of making essences yourself, you don't have to use alcohol to preserve it. It's just the most convenient thing to use. You could use glycerin. Some people use, some of the American companies use these different kinds of vinegars and stuff, but we find they could interfere with the vibration of the essence rather too much. So you can experiment with different things. And some people don't use anything and just have it in water, but it doesn't last very long. Once it's just water, it goes off very quickly. Brandy is a very good preservative, which is why it's used.
Right. I think that the Bach essences sometimes, I think they're mixed with grape juice or something. Is that
okay. I don't know what they use now. That might be good, actually. That might be a better one. We'll have to look at that. We're always interested in learning new techniques for things like that, because some people do request alcohol.
So the other thing that's a little bit interesting is obviously with plants, you're talking about living species, and the species has a specific energy connected generally to it. But also, don't you think that every year the crop is different
Oh yeah, no,
based on the weather, and that has some kind of energetic change? Do you
yes.
find there's an energetic change that goes on?
I think there is. I think there is. Someone brought us back a bottle of crystal clear that I made in about 1995, judging by the label. Still has some in it. He said, like, check this one out. You know, it's still good. And I used it, and it was still good. But he said the energy pattern of it was slightly different to the one we do now. The only thing that's changed that we do differently, really, since that time, at that point, was using vodka instead of brandy in the dosage bottle. I didn't think that made too much difference. So I would say the plants, I'll tell you one thing that happened. When GMOs started being tested in England, I felt that resonate through the entire plant kingdom, and there was this sense of, uh-oh, to all the plants. They kind of knew that was happening. There is a change, and I think perhaps whatever's changing energetically on the planet, the plants change and evolve with it in ways that are hard to define. But certainly that is a good thing.
Cool.
We're out at the moment making new stocks of all kinds of stuff. But we also put some of the old stocks in as well. Like crystal clear, when you get a bottle, it's got some of the 1993 still going on. So
changing up the vintages.
yeah. Well, hopefully they're changing it. Hopefully it becomes more relevant to where we are at right now. Perhaps.
Sure.
Sure. Interesting. There's a lot in there.
So, Era, did you have some questions for David?
Well, I do, David, so thank you for giving me a moment here to entertain them. You know, you mentioned this house back in the, that dates back to the 13th century, and layers upon layers upon layers of energy that is present there. When you determine an essence that will help clear it, are there several different essences that you would have to use to clear the different levels of energy because ever existence over time? Or is it that you actually communicate with the essences themselves and say, okay, which one can do the job? I'm just trying to get a handle on how you approach that.
Okay, well, approaching clearing that particular house would be a very difficult challenge. It certainly wouldn't be accomplished quickly. But yes, we do have an arsenal, if you like, different essences we can lob into it to try. And we have different essences that work by different methods of application. So what we would be inclined to do with a difficult one like that is to ask ourselves whether it's a good idea trying to clear it to start with, because it might be taking on a little bit more than we bargained for. I certainly would be sort of, I'd have to really meditate on that one, see if it's the right thing to do for starters. And also to look at what spirits may be living in that building and what they have to do with what has been there before, and whether A, you can deal with them, B, you can get permission to do it, and all these different things. There's quite a lot involved in a house like that. In a more simple building, like somebody's house that's maybe 100 years old or so, and there's a bit of bad vibes and maybe a ghost or something left over, then we would probably just start by using a simple essence in one corner of one room, see what happens, get a reaction from it, and then from there, yeah, we could douse and see which ones are appropriate. We could douse and see what levels the interference is on, whether it's on the etheric or the astral, and what sort of level of stuff is there, how many thought forms, whatever. And we could sort of work that way. There's no exact method, but caution definitely is a good idea.
So if someone is thinking that they possibly would like to have their home cleared and you don't live near them, let's say they're in the States or they're in Canada,
Oh.
They emailed you and said, "Okay, David, I think I need to clear the energy of my home."
Hmm.
Do you actually intuit what product would benefit them, or and get information from them so that you can do that and meditate on it, or
Yeah.
is there a standard
Yeah.
product that would cover the whole thing?
Yeah, there is some standard products which are pretty like Crystal Clear as a standard product, which we would recommend to every single person on the planet. Really, is a very useful tool for almost all situations.
Mhm.
Likewise, Astral Clear. There's another one, Clear to Light. Another one called Golden Glow. All of those will make it possible for you to do some work on your own building and to gently do some clearing. They clear not just some of the heaviest stuff that's there, they clear this everyday build up of gunge that families accumulate and stuff, sort of
Right.
freshen up the atmosphere and stuff like this. So we sell quite a lot of those to people, and we get a lot of really good feedback over a very long time about how this works. There are occasions sometimes when things don't quite work so simply, like if somebody's living in a house that's perhaps built on an old burial ground or something,
Oh, yeah.
serious kind of stuff. But otherwise, for most people, that is a recommended way to go. We can also dowse to be more specific about what they might need, but the general space cleaning that we offer is something that everyone could use very simply as well, and without knowing anything about it. They don't need to know.
Well, that's good to know. That's good to know that you don't have to physically be there for them, and
No.
that it is still available and available for them to use. Now, I do have a totally arbitrary question that came up in my email as
Okay.
we've been talking. And on your travels, when you've gone to collect from the plants, have you, and you seem to be a very intuitive type energy, and you do have a keen understanding of spirits, etc. Have you ever happened upon fairies at any time? That's the question.
The simple answer is yes. I went through a period in the late 1970s where a good friend called Nick and myself, we basically tuned in and became able to see fairies, and you can do it if you want. The fairies are the spirits of the plants. They don't actually look like the ones in the drawings and paintings in reality, but our minds give them those shapes because then we can understand what is otherwise a formless, thus an energy without so much form. But I've seen them both as the little men and women and also as the glowing lights that move around places, and particularly when you find a place where the energy is really deep energy center or high level energy in nature. Some places just got these little glowing lights just about to see on the peripherals of your vision. Nick and I trained ourselves to see those beings for a while, but it got too intense. Hey, you know what? It got too intense, and we sort of backed off. We had to back off a bit on that one, but you can do it. There.
Okay, I'm absolutely blown away because I've been a medium all my life.
Great.
Never seen fairies, and I would love to see them. And just the fact that they don't appear like Tinkerbell, right, from Walt Disney, that's really interesting. So I know I'm taking this off in another direction, and I want to get back to the essences.
That's fine. No, take it.
But this sort of lends itself to the myth of leprechauns, does it not? Isn't
Absolutely.
that what a leprechaun is?
100%. Yeah, leprechauns are very much in our. We love them. They're great. There's the Irish ones, and what the Irish call the fairies, leprechauns. And the Irish are people who I believe probably still see them on the way home from the pub, and they kind of haven't lost touch with that natural thing. Whereas, here in England, if you have a sacred spring, it's kind of got a gate and you pay to get in or something. In Ireland, there's sacred springs everywhere. People still go to them. They never stopped going to them in the first place. They still go and stuff like that. So they're still in touch with, they may be Catholics, they may go down to the church on Sunday, they're still down the sacred spring collecting their leprechaun water on Monday afternoon, and we were amazed to see that was how it worked there.
Okay, so there really isn't a pot of gold, though, right?
Well, we haven't found it.
I just had to throw that in.
There might be one somewhere.
Well, you never know. Well, I think that is absolutely fascinating, and I think it opens up the spectrum of spirit work to another level, I think, because that would be phenomenal to interact with that energetic level. They must be very playful. Are they?
Yeah,
Are they
they are very playful. They do things like they'll be walking along and they'll suddenly run and leap up and then go vanish in front of the explosion of light. It's extremely playful, extremely fun, extremely energetic, light, lots of energy, massively amazing, really. Someone like yourself, I'm sure you train yourself to see them.
Yeah. Have you ever thought of attempting to photograph them?
No, although I have some interesting orb photos from interesting places I've been, but in terms of trying to photograph them as such, I haven't, mainly because they're not on the physical level, and so I don't have a camera that will do that other level. But I believe that other level is not that far from where we are, and you can slip into it quite easily in the same way you would with, say, mediumship. Yeah. And for me, I think I could be mediumistic in a way, but instead it's gone in a slightly different direction, and it's gone that way instead.
Well, that's just fascinating. The only other question I have right now is the fact that just from listening to Nina ask you questions, it seems to me that Petaltone Essences is how you clear and calm the environment around you that you find yourself in. And because you don't ingest them, they're really not a medicinal product.
No.
There's something that Petaltones offers that does have sort of a healing component that does help people cope, calm, soothe, energize, that kind of thing?
Yeah, well, we've just been talking about the space clearing essences. We have about another 100 different essence products which deal with treating all kinds of different energetic situations in your chakras, which are for general everyday treatment of general everyday problems and issues. We don't make any claims as to physical healing of different diseases as such, as we're not allowed to do that by law. But they can have an effect on some of those. Right now, I'm suffering, normally at this time of year, from extreme hay fever. Believe it or not, I'm allergic to one species of grass which grows here in Northern Europe. I'm not allergic to grass that grows in Hawaii or Australia, but right here. But I created an essence about 2 months ago, which I'm testing on myself, and this is enabling me to sit here without sneezing, without a running nose. I've got a little swelling in my sinuses affecting one of my ears slightly, but compared to what I normally get, this is not a problem. And this is because I'm using this essence several times a day, and that's all I'm taking for it, nothing else, and it's actually working. I can't believe it myself. I'm rather pleased.
Yeah. So this essence would be developed primarily for the grass that is most bothersome to you.
No, it's not. The essence is developed primarily. This essence is a development from the flower essences. This essence contains a flower essence, and it's been shamanically enhanced to contain some other energetic components, which what this does is shields. When you're allergic, what happens is the body goes into a panic response as a result of receiving information like a pollen, in this case pollen getting into it. It could be something else. It could be allergic to alcohol, like somebody was saying earlier or something. So what this essence does, it puts a shielding in place to shield me from the shock response that my body immune system and other energy systems might go into as a result of being stimulated in that way. And so that immune response doesn't happen. So the same stimulus is coming in, but I'm not going into shock response. So This is the cutting edge of my work at the moment. Where it's going is to try and find something that works for me, to prevent overreaction in the immune system, mainly because I personally don't like opium.
Well, you know, when you get that figured out, then I'm sure that product will fly off the shelves, because I don't know anyone who doesn't suffer to some degree with those kinds of things come spring and summer. So that's awesome. Nina.
Well, this one is called Anzen 24, and we've just started selling it last week. So people can buy it now.
Ah. Okay, over to you, Nina, because I know there's still a lot of territory to cover with David.
Well, I just love this, during this discussion, the sense of being able to cooperate with the wisdom of the plant consciousness and the plant kingdom. Because so often, you know, humanity has just been about imposing itself to control the world around us. And you know, you're making essences, but you're not going and grabbing the plant and, you know, cutting it off. And you're asking its permission. You're dealing with the plant consciousness. And so this is such a wonderful concept to me. Also that you're not ingesting it in the body, that it's an energetic remedy. And that you said, you know, you're taking the essence, but I think that Anzem. But I think what you mean is you are spraying it around your body.
Yeah, I'm evaporating
it. That's you're not ingesting it, and that's so important because it doesn't have to go through your digestive tract. It doesn't have to go through any of that. It just is absorbed by your field. Correct.
That's right. Straight in off the.
Are you giving a demonstration now?
Yeah, I'll do it again. I'm just putting a few drops in the palm of my hand like this. And then I'm rubbing my hands together once, and then I'm just allowing this to evaporate into whatever chakra or whatever part of my aura I want it to go, all the way up high maybe, or around the crown, around the brow, throat, heart chakra, down solar plexus, down the lower chakra.
What are you feeling in your hands when you do that?
Well, you can feel the evaporation of the essence coming off them, plus the energy of them obviously going into the hand chakras as well. So you can feel that quite strongly. And the effect, as my energy is completely changed as I'm doing this, I feel it's just giving me, I feel a bit more relaxed, and because my body's slightly tense with this hay fever stuff, this just makes me go, it's okay. Oh, Big Badger has just walked past outside.
Well, that's good. Hi, Badger. I know when I've used the essences and I put them on my hands and rub it, and my hands want to stop at certain chakras because I could feel the absorption going, and then it lightens up, and then I continue, and then I start buzzing, and then I want to put my hands out there. I mean, I'm quite sensitive, but you know, if you use the essences, you'd find that there is a reactivity that happens energetically that you can actually feel in this energy exchange with the plant essence on your hand and, you know, on your hand in the aura. So it's fantastic.
So my question, though, is if you're putting it on your hand, the skin is the largest organ of the body. Isn't some of it going into your system?
Yeah, sure. There is a small amount gets absorbed through the skin, and there are one or two. The ones that are actually poisonous plants, we don't apply them in this way.
Well, that would be good.
For obvious reasons. Although the quantity of actual plant material, isn't very high in each. In this one, there's maybe just a few drops of the mother essence in the actual bottle. So here's the bottle, and there's about 15 milliliters of liquid, and in there's just a few drops of plant essence. But once again, if it's a poisonous plant, we would not be using it quite so in this way. If they're really toxic, we find a different way of application, which is to place a few drops on the floor between the feet at the earth chakra. That works very well for some of them. So it's not to worry about.
Yeah, I just love the thought of it being used to clear our chakra system. I mean, it's not the quick fix. I mean, the fix for the chakra system is to take care of your stuff, right? But
Yeah.
this would
Yeah.
be really an enhancement, and to be able to feel it, Nina, that must be truly remarkable.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, when you apply it to the chakras, like in any flower essence, what happens is that, well, perhaps you can just, explain this a little bit better than me, David, about what's happening in terms of how it helps the individual to deal with the stuff in their chakras.
Okay. Well, first of all, it depends what the stuff is and what the essence is, but each of the chakras obviously has a different kind of stuff in it, depending on which chakra it is. If we say, look at the throat chakra as a really easy example to talk about, which is the center of your self-expression and communication stuff. So if people have stuff around those, have issues around this subject, then this will come up in dowsing. So the way we apply a general treatment to somebody is by dowsing with a pendulum the whole aura and seeing which essences want to go into which chakras. Now, if the essence goes into this throat chakra, it's going to be treating one of these issues that has to do with the throat chakra. So the essence will select itself. We use the intuitive to choose which essence goes in there. We don't do that. We can use our mind. We can look through the brochure and think, oh, that one will be good, but it's much better to douse it because the intuitive gives us the right essence. Then we apply that essence, and at that point in time, say we had one called release, which is for what it says on the tin, really, which is for releasing blocks. So if someone gets released in the throat chakra, what they're doing, what this essence is doing, is helping them to encourage them to express something that they've been perhaps keeping down. It's a bit of emotional release needed by expression of some kind, and that expression could be anything. It doesn't necessarily mean verbal expression. So that's an example of a simple one. Another simple one would be if somebody's very ungrounded. We have one called spirit ground, which is really good for being back in your body, and if you're really a bit out of your body, as a lot of us sensitive people can be, then, I mean, for example, I applied it once at a public event, and this nurse came along, she took it, she was a healer as well, she took it into her heart chakra. It was indicated this was the heart chakra. She said, wow, that's the first time I've been in my body for about 3 years. It was like, so there's an example of two very simple things. Obviously, it gets far more complex when you've got multiple essences going into multiple chakras, and they do work on multiple levels, not just one level. So it's quite a complex system of treatment. And we're just giving you some very, very simple examples here. Basically, what we're letting, like you said, this intelligence of the plants is more than, not only do we respect it, we treat it as a source of wisdom. The plants know an awful lot, and they can give us a lot of healing if we allow that process. By dowsing them, we allow them to select, we allow the energies to select what is right for a treatment plan.
Yes. I've noticed that whenever I use plant essences of Petaltone or other varieties, that it seems to loosen that issue and kind of, I want to say, sort of help me detach from it. So even though it arises within me, I'm not as affected by it. I'm not overwhelmed by it. And so
Right.
I can see it and work with it more
Good.
clearly.
Yeah, that's nice. That's a nice example. Yes, okay, from a receiving perspective, I think I have a theory about how these essences may be working in our auras, because they can do, there's one, for example, called Jasmine, which is for feeling better about being who you are, especially your image that is projected into the world, and we live in a world where physical image is very important on the media, and we're getting the impression that we probably don't come up to the mark, of course, for most of us. And so a lot of people feel a little bit down on that. So when you use this essence, what it does is it gives you a feeling of, hey, actually I'm okay just as I am. You know? And I think what it does is it lends you this energy. It lends you a different energy pattern to the one you've got already. We're talking energy patterns in all these chakras. So what it does is it offers you a change for that energy pattern, an immediate change here and now. And if you like that energy change, well, oh, it's rather nice walking along thinking I'm okay. So then you might choose to make a conscious choice. So I think I'll do that from now on. And so you use the essence every day for a week or two, and then maybe after that it becomes a habit, that energy pattern. You start to adopt that energy pattern yourself. And of course, until you adopt it yourself, real change in your habits unless you do it.
Right.
It can lend you the experience, it can lend you this change so you can experience it, and then you can pick it up and run with it.
So when people have come to you for treatments, or either via Skype or telephone or in person, do you have like a protocol of questions that you go through, or is it a more intuitive process than that?
Okay, well, we have, first of all, quite a lot of different treatments available. The most basic one is you send us a photo online, probably taken very recently, and we will simply dowse it. I usually get Helen to do that now, and she'll dowse it, and you can send your whole family. We've discovered recently that if you treat all members of the family, you get much better results, because treating one member, if you're living in a house with a lot of people in the family, then your energies are all completely intertwined. So we offer people free dowsing for whoever's in the household, and we can just recommend the essences that come up through dowsing. That's the most simple form of treatment. We will then post them to you, and you can use them into the indicated chakras. We got one family recently, for example, in France, who got really good results doing this, and keep sending us new photos to update their treatment every month or two. Is also quite good, because they're making some good changes as a result. So that's the simplest form of treatment.
So you're using the photograph as a witness for that energy of that person.
Yeah, that's right. If you really don't want to send a photograph, a handwriting sample is another possibility. People can also send their pets, because, here's a good one. These essences absolutely thing with animals and pets. They love it. Absolutely love it. And guess what? Pets don't experience the placebo effect. That's why nobody accuses that one. It's kind of, with animals, there is no placebo effect. And we get great results. Really, really tangible, noticeable results on physical, emotional, and other levels with animals. Really good. So, but there's your simplest treatment. From there, we then offer, I do a one-to-one telephone session, which is a plant spirit medicine session, which is something completely different. This involves using a plant spirit medicine to access the client's energy and make changes in it. We gently change some of the thought forms, maybe take out some of the stuff that needs to go. And that process is done through an interactive process in which the client is as much part of it as I am, or the plant spirit is. And it's a very deep process. We go into a safe space through visualization, and we do go through a standard aura clearing over the phone, standard aura clearing thing, and after that we get the client will work with me and the essence to look at what's going on for themselves, rather than me saying, oh, this is what's happening, we're going to do this to you. It is, okay, you are going to participate in this process.
Right.
And the plant spirit medicine is used to make the changes in the energy that need to be made, and it can safely be made at that time, to the extent it's a strong treatment. It's designed to bump you out of the stuck place quite majorly, and it is quite big stuff. A lot of people have found that to be good, and have become, if we come back once in a while and they get stuck, to have another go at doing some more. And it's like layers of the onion, peeling away one layer until another comes, and another comes, and eventually at the bottom of that all you find a core issue thing, perhaps. actually. So it does enable people to move on.
So do you incorporate sound in those treatments as well?
I don't incorporate sound in that kind of treatment. Sound is a different kind of treatment because that is an absent treatment on the telephone or through Skype. Sound is really best applied one-to-one in the same room, in my experience, and can be used to unblock energy blockages, backaches, muscular stress, and is a very, very powerful tool, actually. Sound mainly used Tibetan singing bowls. These instruments, nobody has really bothered studying them. I did. I spent 2 years at Northeast London Polytechnic studying how to use them, and the ways that you can use a Tibetan bowl to create the effects you want to create. Really, you have to look at it the way you look at a crystal. It's raw material that can be used in a lot of different ways. It can be programmed, it can be it's a receiver and transmitter. I won't go too deeply into it because it's deep stuff, but basically sound healing is a very potent thing indeed. It has to be done right. It's a strong tool.
Right. I've had a question from one of the members of our chat room. Sandra says, which essence could help agoraphobia and panic attacks?
Well, the answer to this is that some of the, well, to answer it directly, first of all, some of the protection essences, we have a whole range of aura protection essences, which basically put a protective shield into the aura that helps to keep out whatever intrusions are threatening the sensitive being, to sum it up. But what we would also say to that person is probably best to dowse for you from a photograph to see what it is you need, because that's really a symptomatic treatment prescription, and probably be better to look deeper into it by dowsing. That way you get a deeper treatment, probably involving 3 or 4 essences or so into some different chakras. And of course we don't know what's causing it, we don't know what's a deeper level, and by dowsing we come up with a deeper treatment for it. So I would advise the dowsing for that one. We do have outlets for our products in the United States, by the way. There's quite a few of our products are sold at the PetaltoneUSA.com website, which is linked on our website in the UK. So if you live in the States or Canada, you can either get them shipped from us in the UK, or you can get them from PetaltoneUSA.com as well. So if you like living in the States, you can still send us a photo for dowsing. We'll still do the dowsing for you. For nothing, we can order it from there. It's okay too.
Could you talk a little bit more about the protection essence range? Because you touched upon that for Sandra, and for people suffering from, well, hypersensitivity of some sort that causes a variety of psychic or astral sort of problems.
Certainly. Well, this is something I've been working on for a very long time now, and trying to come up with essences that really help in the cases of psychic attack, for example, or oversensitivity to people picking up entities as they're going around town, right the way through to feeling themselves to be victims of attacks from psychic persons or entities of some kind. And we have a whole range of products that have been developed over the last few years, which the first one of these was called Power Shield, which attempts to create a shield to aura. One of the reasons that people are oversensitive to things is usually the lack of boundaries in the aura. And this essence lends you some boundaries. It creates an energy pattern, it gives you a boundary in the aura. You can start off to find out what it's like having one. People tend to find, when we first tested that one, we tested it at a Judy Hall workshop in Glastonbury Abbey House, and a large group of people took it and at lunchtime used it in their aura. Then went into Glastonbury High Street, which is a place where if you're going to pick up weird energies and get sniffy, it's probably a really good place to test it at. And they came back saying, well, not only did we find that we didn't pick up the usual entities, but we also found we maintained our concentration better, we went in there to do something. We actually carried out the task we went in there to do. We didn't get distracted by the psychic piglet shop down the road or whatever it was, and we managed to come back and be much more focused. So this essence seemed to work. From that positive feedback, yeah, well, this is just what other people found it. I found it to be very good. Living around Glastonbury, where I live, you can get nighttime visitors unannounced coming through while you're trying to sleep, trying to have a go, and so on. Psychic witnesses, people who aren't always very nice. They're doing stuff, and this keeps them out. Basically, it stops them getting in. And from PowerShield, I've now developed a range of about 12, 15 now. I think there are different protection essences that work in slightly different ways, attempting to find what will work for one person. The best thing is to try 2 or 3 different ones, see what works for you, and then maybe vary them. I usually vary them if I need them. I'll use PowerShield for reading them, maybe switch to one of the other ones to keep changing the energy pattern.
Yeah. But, you know, it's not, I mean, you talk about entities and spirits and things like that. Not everybody has those experiences, but what a lot of people do experience is hypersensitivity to other people's energies and lacking boundaries. So particularly with this, it's very important because people work in offices, they work, you know, they live in a busy city, or they have difficulties with partners or supposed friends, etc. And you know, if there are a lot of, you know, if they're very sensitive, you know, how can these essences help that kind of emotional energy or even mental energy incursions from other people?
Well, they seem to help a bit with that as well. It's still early days to be able to say that we have a cure for that. But quite a lot of people have found, particularly workplace problems. It seems to me from my clients that the workplace is a bit like looking at animals in a zoo or something. The way that people go at each other is quite severe, actually. What people have to put up with is unbelievable. And if you are sensitive at all, even if you're not, it's very difficult. So I think quite a lot of people have found help from these protection essences for that. And also, you don't know, one woman phoned, she said, look, my immediate boss comes into my office cubicle and intimidates me on a daily basis. I said, well, at the time I didn't have protection, I only had the essences, I only had the crystal clear. I said, try crystal clear. But she used it in the office and he never came in again. He just stopped. No, I mean, problem solved. Okay, so there's some different things going on there. But certainly, what I found for my sensitive clients is that they find when they go home from work, if someone's hooked into their aura from work, has been nasty, jealous, or other sort of kind of competitive stuff in a way that isn't helpful. And they're able, with these essences, to remove those hooks and shield themselves. They're just sort of, yeah, it's not like, it's like I said, this will lend you an energy so you can feel what it's like to have a better boundary, but really you then need to ask yourself how you can develop a better boundary yourself through personal effort as well. It's like you can go on using these essences. We have a lot of clients who know nothing about psychism, nothing about sensitivity, who are experiencing horrendous stuff happening to them because somebody is doing it. Or whatever, family member or something, and then we're able to help these people because although they know nothing, they can say at night time they can use a crystal grid around the bed or something and use some of these essences, protection, clearing essences, and that will give them a good night's sleep with no interruptions. That means a lot to that person, especially when they've got a 3-year-old kid, like some of our clients got. So. These essences are great for people to start to experience what it's like to not be that vulnerable. But also, we do advise people that they need to study how to work with their energy a bit more. Do Nina Ashley's course and development.
Thank you, David.
Well, I often recommend your CDs with the various exercises because they are very, very good. and it's true.
Right. Thank you, David. I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's true.
Since you recorded the music on them. as
Yeah.
well, by the
Oh, yeah,
way.
yeah, I did. I forgot that, but yes, indeed. But it is true. It's like, but the reality is that how people got to be sensitive is many and various. Often it's through quite unpleasant stuff that happened to them at an early age or whatever, or difficult childhood, or general battering from one thing or another. And quite often people didn't elect to become sensitive. They just found themselves that way through no fault of their own, really. And you have to be very careful how you work around these topics, around these kinds of people, because it's
Absolutely.
highly sensitive area on all levels, of course. And there's no quick fix, but the power shield and other essences will give some protection. It will make a difference to most people straight away.
Era, did you have something to say or ask David?
Yes, I do have another question. Thank you.
Hmm.
I'm wondering if there are essences that will help people, uh, help to encourage or actually induce uh, dream state. Like, there's so many people that can't remember their dreams, and is there an essence that can encourage that, or is there an essence that will actually help incubate a particular dream?
I'd say the answer to that, in my experience, is yes. We have one called Silvery Moon, which is from the original 21 series that we made. That one is great. In fact, Joe Holiday is one of these people who I mentioned earlier, who's one of my mentors from Nina's group way back 30 years ago, and she couldn't remember her dreams well, and she tried using that and said it worked really well. She suddenly could remember them. It helps with people who have dream issues of all kinds, and it's called Silvery Moon. But there's another one I've made very recently called Clear to Indigo. I have found the most incredible dream spaces by using this one. I can't believe what's happening in my dream life by using this essence. So I can't tell you exactly what it's doing, but somewhere along those lines, it's bringing me into a much more focused dream space. Another one of the protection essences called Safe Space. Actually creates an incredibly tight grid around the bedroom. So when you sleep, you have much more focus somehow. That can result in some quite interesting dreams as well. So I think the answer is yes, it's well worth experimenting. It is an experiment. There's no guarantee that if you use this essence, you will get this result. But you will change your dream experience, and it's worth trying. Because it seems to change it in a positive way, and I think it would be well worth trying.
Yeah, that's remarkable. I know that there are so many people who would benefit from something like that, specifically because dreams are so important, and if you can't remember them, you're missing a whole pile of messages, right? So yeah, that would be interesting. Now, the other question I have, and it's similar to the dream state one, but I'm assuming that there would be a product that will enhance meditation.
Yes, there is. There's a few that enhance meditation. There's one called Llama, which is the name of the tree, actually, from Hawaii, rather than a name that I've given it. But funny enough, that enhances meditation. And quite a few of them do help with the meditative state. I'm someone who, despite being sensitive, I tried training with Tibetan lamas when I was 18 years old, and I found meditation very, very difficult. It's not been something I found easy to do. I find that it gets me into a more meditative state if I use just a simple clearing essence for kickoff, and then maybe douse one or two others just to, it mellows out your aura, as you were suggesting earlier on, and it starts to put you in that direction where you can start to resonate with some more peaceful brainwaves and start to let go of some of the stress, so that it does work in a relaxing way towards that. Yes.
Ah, see, now those are important little tidbits that are quite helpful, especially for people who find it difficult to meditate.
Mm.
So good. I'm glad that there's something out there that can help enhance their experience, because meditation, as we all know, is vital. It's our most powerful tool for sure. Now, when it comes to animals, the essences obviously would help calm an animal. What else will the essences do for animals?
Okay, the first time I used essences on animals, we were running a workshop somewhere in Somerset, and the cat in the house was very sick. It had some kind of cancer or something. And the owners of the house said, the cat's very sick, can you do anything for it? Because tomorrow it's going to the veterinary surgeon to be put down. And we thought, well, we can't lose by having a go. So we dowsed, and like we think, well, okay, you don't know where the chakras are, but you can divide it into top, where the head area, the middle body, and the lower body. So we dowsed on that basis and applied 2 or 3 essences from the 21 set. Guess what? Cat never got put down. Guess what? Cat survived another 6 months of healthy, good life, and just became incredibly okay for a while, another 6 months. I was personally the most amazed person there about that. And so from then on, sort of recommended we tried other cats and other dogs. Dogs, interesting, a very emotional level reaction from dogs. And they also become very spaced out temporarily when you apply them. Now, most medicines you give to cats and dogs horrible because you have to get it into the mouth. This one, not a problem because you don't. You just go into the aura with the hands. You don't even have to be that close. One cat on a workshop, we were going to treat it. It never come near anyone. It's so paranoid, this cat. It wouldn't sit on your knee, wouldn't sit on anybody's knee ever. And when it came time to treat it, the cat ran away, hid under the bathtub, and then we went off and had lunch. When we came back, it was sitting on top of the essences in the workshop room. So it was obviously checking. So we got an essence. We managed to get it into its aura from a distance of 6 feet away. And as soon as the essence went in the aura, the cat just calmed down and started sitting on somebody's lap and allowed us to apply the rest. And from that day forth, it was a lap cat. So dogs, it seems to bring up the emotional issues of their trauma, seems to clear some of that, if they've had a bad experience somewhere in their previous owners have treated them badly or something. That hangs them up, and this seems to release that. Amazingly, they sort of go all emotional, and then they let it go, and it clears really quickly. I think they work even better on owls than humans. Owls have less resistance to that kind of change, and it just sort of seems to work.
That's amazing. And I think if I understood you right, it's easier and more well, it's easier to treat an animal than it is a human. And I think it's because the human has developed a degree of skepticism where the animal is just so totally unconditional. If it feels good, they go with it, right?
Yeah, I reckon you're right. I reckon, well, the animal doesn't think about it. You can't do a placebo effect on the animal. You can't talk it into it.
Exactly.
Like you say, it likes it or it doesn't like it. But
Yeah.
particularly with a cat, so if you go into an aura massage with some essence, the cat is going to like that. 9 times out of 10, they absolutely love it. And I've then moved on to try other animals, horses, goldfish, different things. Got some results with every kind of animal. And we really encourage people to do that because it's so good to do that for animals. So
Exactly. Nice. I don't know why these kinds of essences aren't readily available at all these animal shelters. Can you imagine what a beautiful place it could become?
Exactly. We would echo that thought entirely, 100%.
Yeah, it's amazing. So I just want to turn it over to Nina, and I do want to hear about your workshops at some point as well, because those sound fascinating. And just for Sandra, thank you, Carrie, for putting David's web address in there. It is www.petaltone.co.uk. Feel free to check out his website and everything he has to offer. And then let us know how it goes. We want to know the effect that his wonderful abilities have brought to you. Over to you, Nina.
I was just going to plug David's website, actually, so we're right on to track here, as usual, Era. Yeah, really highly recommend you look at, his product listing and his treatments and everything on the website because they're amazing. As a user myself and in my own healing work, I highly recommend it. which is why one of the reasons why I wanted to get David here to share his wisdom with us and, you know, the wonderful work that he does. Um, so I think this might be a good time to take like a little break, and then when we come back, we can talk a little bit about the shamanic work that you and Helen do together, and a little bit more about the workshops and teaching that you do. How do therapists get involved with learning about what you do? So why don't we
Okay.
take a two-minute break?
Okay.
And so now it's 22:22 here, which we love.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we'll be back at, say, 22:25. Okay?
Okay.
So we'll take 3 minutes, and we're just going to just log off for the moment, and we'll catch you all back in 3 minutes. So take a little comfort break, everybody. See you soon.
Hi. Welcome back.
Hello.
Took a short break, and we are back with David Eastoe, Petaltone Essences, and what a fantastic discussion this has been. Nina, I will pass the reins back to you once again.
Thank you, Era. And welcome back, everybody, and welcome back, David, for our short pit stop, all prepared for part 2. Could you talk a little bit about the connection that you have with shamanic healing? Because obviously in shamanic healing, it's a great respect for the natural world. And as you said in the very first part of our interview, how you were inspired by shamans and other traditional medicine and how they use plants, and how have you applied that in the work that you've done and in the research and development of plant essences, of Petaltone essences?
Okay, it's a very interesting topic because Helen, that I work with a lot, my partner, she's studied proper shamanism, if you like, with Peruvian shamans and other people who are teaching the traditional methods that have been taught for thousands of years. I have not done that. I have learned everything I've learned directly from the plants and working with the plants, but ended up at a very similar place, which is quite interesting. So when Helen started studying shamanism, I started reading some of her source books because they were jolly interesting. I thought, oh, look at that. Oh, right. Oh, I see. Yeah, that's a bit similar, isn't it, to what we're doing here? What happened to me was I was in Hawaii and making essences, and one day, this was in about 1999, I was drawn to this particular plant. I made the essence and took it back to the house. I couldn't sleep for 3 days and nights and had waking visions, very strange stuff. I don't normally get that spaced out, by the way. That's not my normal modus operandi. And I was thinking, this is very strange. What on earth is going on? Something very odd is going on here. I couldn't. And eventually I took the bottle of essence out of my room, and then I was able to sleep. Ah, it's the essence. And this essence turned out to be one which is now called, I called it Petaltone Plant Ally, for want of a better name, and it is only a name, and what is an incredible plant spirit essence, which basically works in a similar way to the kind of stuff they use down the Amazon or in other places. You don't take it internally, you put a few drops on the floor between your feet or the client's feet or in the space you're working with, and you basically have a rapport with this plant spirit and you instruct it to carry out energetic tasks. So in that sense it's similar to shamanic plant spirit work that is carried out elsewhere. The way that I've learned to target energies, structures that need to move is similar to how traditional shamanism works, by doing the same thing. The way I do it is slightly different, but seems to work in the same way, working through the different layers of energy structures that are there. Some kind of block, or whatever you're working on, does contain a lot of different energies on a lot of different levels, and those energies can be removed.
Right.
So,
I love that.
Yeah. So that's basically what we're doing with the plant ally and work. And when you phone up for a session with me, that's what you get. You get some energy stuff removed by working with this plant spirit. It's capable of doing it down the phone. Another thing I wouldn't have thought possible, but one day someone was going on rather a lot on the phone talking to me, 10 to the dozen from New York. This was New York person. Talk a lot now and then. Some people from that. And they kind of like, I thought, well, I was in the middle of doing these essence, so I'll go back to using these essence. So I started using them while they were on the phone. And they said, what did you just do? I felt that down the end of the phone. And I said, what do you feel? And they described it, and I was using something like Astral Clear, and it had gone down the phone. It had actually resulted in them feeling this down the end of the phone. So this sort of became an interest that you could actually work like this from a distance. I prefer the phone to Skype because Skype is a distraction, having a really picture of somebody when you're trying to work with them, because it's done with your eyes closed and in a process and so on. And the social background of the person, what they look like, is completely irrelevant to the process. So doing it over the phone I prefer, but we've had some really good results with working over the phone with people. And I have some regular clients, and some people come for a one-off treatment where they just get a blast to shift them out of that stuckness. And some people have done everything under the sun and they just can't shift. And the reason they can't shift it is because the energy pattern is still there, and doesn't matter how many things you do, it hasn't shifted that energy pattern. It's still in your aura, and when it's still there, or in your etheric or somewhere, if the energy pattern is still there, you can do as many affirmations as you like, as many yoga postures, as many meditation courses, and as many processes you like. It's just chipping away at it. But if you can shift that energy pattern, really shift it, then you can make a change. So what we try and do with the shamanic work that I do is to shift that a bit, so you can get some movement in your energy.
Sandra made a great comment whilst you were talking, and I think it's very befitting based on what you've said. She said, how wonderful that the spirit world is helping, include the plant world. Years ago, it would have been a mental health, thing,
Yeah.
and then, boom. And then she said, but the plants are our mental health team.
Yeah, cool. That suits me. I'd rather have them. I'd rather have them. Well, that is true.
It is.
It is true. And actually, when I first started experiencing negative psychism, I started talking to people to see who would be able to help me with this problem. That was before I met you. And it was like, okay, who's going to help me? And going to talk to, say, a Christian priest, and his suggestion was to get psychiatry, which is one step in the direction of full of meditation and all the rest of it they're liable to do to you once they believe that you're seeing spirits.
Right.
And I realized how difficult it was for somebody in that position who's actually getting some sort of spirit contact that they don't really want or whatever. And where do they get help? There isn't any help, really, apart from some of the mediums and people like yourself, of which there are very few. And precious few. For the average person, that is not available. They go to the doctor, they go to the priest. Either way, the Catholic priest was better. At least he came and did a blessing around the place. That was better than nothing. I think the Anglican priest would have had me committed if he could have done. It was kind of like a bit upsetting and very vulnerable place you can get into either way as well. Right? Some of the people I've got for clients who are being the other thing is when you're being psychically attacked by something really limiting, really, let's just talk about that, because some people feel really embarrassed about that. Stuff happens to them at night that is very, very nasty. We won't go into the details, but very unpleasant, makes them feel like they've done something wrong or they're evil or something horrible. That it just goes against the grain so much. And because nobody understands it, they start to feel bad about themselves. And of course,
yes, there's a lot of ignorance around it.
Yeah. So we're offering a little bit of help with that. Obviously, it's a big subject.
So let's talk a little bit now about, we've talked a lot about treatments in all different kinds of ways. So personal treatments, family treatments, treatments of simple problems, treatments of multi-level kinds of problems, and treatments that, obviously it's within the energy field, within the layers of the aura, and now let's talk a little bit about the other side of it. Amongst the people who are in our chat room and also who are maybe listening to this archive program, they may be healers. So, maybe they have worked somewhat with essences, or maybe they have no experience in working with plant essences at all. Can you tell us about training and how you go about training?
Okay, well, we have a very good online training program right now, which makes it very easy for people to learn the basic stuff very inexpensively and very efficiently. It's a good system that's been developed over the last 10 years or more. We do run actual physical workshops that you can come to from time to time. The last ones we ran were in Japan. Just a couple of weeks ago, we ran workshops in Tokyo and another city in Japan. And we actually taught practitioners there on a one-to-one basis. From time to time, we run workshops in the UK. If people are really interested in studying with us in that way, they should contact us. We can inform them when we've got a workshop training coming. Or they might like to take our online training. As I say, it doesn't cost that much. And you can learn the basics by doing that. And you can get started. We feel okay about doing online training with Petaltone essences because what we're teaching you to do It's not something you can screw up on easily and harm people by doing it wrong. It's safe stuff to work with. And you do your experience by treating test clients. You get your friends and family and other people who want to have a go, and you do test treatments. What we teach you to do is quite simple. We teach you how to douse the essences, how to douse the chakras, how to apply them to the chakras, and we teach you about your chakras and about your energy field, so that you can learn about it yourself through your own experience. So it all starts with you learning about your own energy field really a little bit, and putting some essences in there and seeing what they can do. These will lower you in gently to that. If you're an experienced therapist or healer already, you already know all about the chakras, you've already been treating people for the last 15 years or whatever, then you may just be able to adopt a simple course will just get you going, so you can use Petaltones alongside whatever modality you're already working with. Petaltones are entirely suitable to use alongside almost any other modality. They will help with it. You can also use the clearing essences to clear your treatment room and your client, and clear it after they've gone, before the next client comes in, so they don't have to absorb any of the stuff they left behind, as well. So,
and all you do is go psh, psh.
Yeah, you can spray, or if you don't spray, you can use a vaporizer.
Oh yes, that's very good. Yeah.
Crystal clear in water, just a few drops, little candle, or an electronic one even. You can have it going in the corner unobtrusively, just anyway. That clears the space very well.
I use that before I go to sleep at night. I have a vaporizer, and I put Earth and Heaven. I love that one.
Oh, good. Oh, that's lovely. Oh, that's
my
great.
favorite one these days.
Oh, lovely, lovely. I'll have to try that.
It vaporizes. It's great.
Yeah.
And then it just turns itself off. Great.
Yeah, vaporizers are great because they go on and on and on. And sometimes when you're trying to clear an energy, it's good to put a vaporizer on because it can burn its way through it. You can just relight it and refill it and keep it going for days even, and it will get its way through there. So anyway, we do have also one-to-one training possibilities. We live in Somerset, UK, 5 minutes from a train station, which is 1.5 hours from Paddington, London. And so people do occasionally come out here and we train them. We also have opportunities for people to be space clearing practitioners at a very basic level. That's a one-to-one training that you need to really come and do with us, and we will equip you with some essences so you can go and show people how to use crystal clear, how to use astral clear in the ways we describe. And if you want to become a rep for Petaltone and do little space clearing groups yourself, you can do that amongst your clients yourself, and we will allow you to distribute some of the essences as well. So it's just to help people be able to clear their own homes and simple stuff. We also have a book about it. There's the Petaltone Book of Space and Aura Clearing, and there's the Petaltone Book of the Aura. Both of those are available for just £2.50 GBP, British pounds, off our website. You can order those, and they've got a lot of information which is worth reading.
Well, I was just going to say that you must be psychic, because the book thing was going to be my next question.
Right.
You beat me to it. But I think the one comment I do have at this point is, if there is at all a fragrance involved with the essences, I think we need more than a visual platform here, Nina. We need smell-o-vision or something. I feel like I'm missing out over here.
There's no smell. There's no smell.
There's no smell. Actually, yeah, there's no fragrance with these essences. In fact, because we no longer use brandy, we use vodka. It's now just a very slight smell of vodka in there, but generally speaking, the fragrance is not, for these particular essences, fragrance is not part of it. Some people like to mix them with essential oils, and if you're an essential oil practitioner, i.e. aromatherapist, there are some good combinations, but you'll have to douse them yourself to see which essence goes with which oil. But you can put lavender oil into your crystal clear spray. Those are compatible and you can spray it around the room so you get a nice smell of lavender, and it clears it as well. I can try and send you something down the line and see if you can feel it. I don't know.
Oh, that's a good idea. Okay, everybody, here we go. So get your little hats on, get your little receptors on. Okay.
Try the astral clear, shall we? Because that's
Okay.
basic clearing. So here we go. I'm going to put a few drops of astral clear in here, and then I'm just going to send it. See if I can send it to everyone. Helen said you could feel it over there, and she's sitting on the other side of the room. So,
I can feel it.
yeah, well. I'll do another one in a minute and see if you can notice the difference. Astral clear.
Okay, that's just wild.
But what
Alright,
did you get? What did you get, Era?
It almost felt like there was almost like a pressure. It wasn't an uncomfortable one, it was just a noticeable one. And then there was this complete and utter relaxation that went through on a muscular level, right? Before it hit the emotional level where I could go, ah, right? It hit some.
Great. Hey, that sounds good.
I felt it in my third eye, my throat, my heart, and my solar plexus, and almost like, again, like it was pushing me back slightly. And then again, it dissipated and my energy expanded. It felt good. It felt energizing as well as relaxing at the same time.
I feel, okay, that's really weird. It's really weird. Look what we're doing here. I feel different. There's a definite difference, even though I can't really put words to it.
Yeah.
It's uplifting and energizing, yes. Okay.
Let's try a different one. Let's try the power shield. I'll try a little bit of this. One of the protection ones. It just puts a protective shield. Let's try a little bit of that and see how that feels as a different one.
Oh, wow.
That feels different around here, anyway.
You know, the oddest sensation immediately, you know when you're in an aircraft and you're taking off and your ears kind of get plugged up?
Yeah.
Exactly what happened to me.
Wow.
I can feel that pressure in my ears. It's just
Okay.
I got it straight in my solar plexus, then the energy went right down the bottom, down into my Earth Star chakra, and then it just went whoop all the way around me.
Still have it in my ears. Maybe it goes to where you need it the most, right?
Yeah.
And also, I felt it here, like sitting here just as part of this machine and looking at you guys there and the energy we're all creating, it just completely changed it. It just feels completely different now to what it was before. But I couldn't say exactly what had happened there, but it feels like the bubble has shifted completely somehow, and I feel quite different.
Carrie said I started giggling.
Way to go, Carrie.
Right,
Love
well, that's
that. Thank you.
very good reaction. So you see, it does work through the phone and other sort of things. It's quite interesting, isn't it? I find it fascinating.
Well,
The thing is, it's all energy. It's all energy.
And that's how we do our work, right?
Cool.
It's all energetic.
Of course, I suppose that's true, really. It shouldn't be surprising at all. Yeah, I kind of felt it when it was going off my hands. Though. It was like,
Yeah.
Sure.
So, yeah. So there we are. I could do a series of treatments. So,
Wow. Yeah, this is amazing.
This is the thing I've done like that was when we did the Radio 4 program for the Tibetan bowls a few years ago. We programmed this huge Tibetan bowl to send out the most beautiful energies of awakening to people, great persons who in their millions would be listening to the program. And various people phoned in. One lady said, I was doing the ironing and I came over feeling a bit funny and had to sit down. Can you tell me what's going on, please? And things like this. We got through. But that was sound. And you said, well, this is something different. That seems to be
it's interesting that you are also in sound, because my experience for the first time in my life, my friend had a set of tingshaws, you know, the Tibetan
Yes. Yeah,
tingshaws. And
symbols.
she says, "Have
Wonderful.
you ever heard these before?" I said, "No." And so she clinked them together,
Mm.
and that sound went in the top of my head and right through my body and back up again. And I was just paralyzed. It was just like resonating up and down really, really fast. And that was the first time I felt sound. But I remember how much in awe I was at that experience. And so it made me wonder how sound could help us heal.
Oh yes. Well, if it can change the energy that much, then it can, can't it? And it is a very strong healer, and you can do amazing things with sound. You really can. But you do have to know what you're doing with it. It's not something for the total beginner. So you have to learn a bit about it. Be very careful because it's so strong. With the essences, I think you can experiment, and you can. If you put the wrong pedal tone in the wrong chakra, it's not going to harm it. It really isn't. Whereas with the Tibetan bowl, you can seriously rearrange somebody's energy in a way that wasn't that helpful if you're not careful. You've got to learn a bit more about how it works. You can,
It would be really interesting to have a program with you just on your sound healing.
yeah, well, you're welcome. If you want one, we can do one of those.
Oh, that would be amazing. I would love that.
You're welcome.
Yes,
You're happy to
because
share.
it's not something that's discussed very often, and of course, you know, I believe, you know, thought is the precursor to sound.
Yeah.
So there's this very strong connection between the sounds, the silent sounds in our mind, and the voices that we use, and how we transmit energy through our voices, but also nonverbal sound generated by instruments of varying kinds is we know how much it moves us and how that changes us.
That could evoke so much in a person, you know, just to loosen all that stuff that we hold so deeply inside that we're not aware, and it just loosens it right up so we can purge it. It's so powerful. I would love if you would come back and do that with us one day, David.
I'm happy to do that. I would be happy to share that also because I think it's information and it's sharing. A lot of people working with sound now, but I don't think they're learning the sort of stuff that I learned. For some reason, it's good to put some of it out there. And that's good.
But to come back to our topic for tonight, I think it's a good time to kind of round off all the things that we've learned and all the information and inspiration that you've shared with us of the wisdom of the plant world that you've been able to tap into and communicate with them and through them in such an incredible manner through Petaltone essences. And in a way, I love the name Petaltone because it's talking about the delicacy and the beauty of the petals of the plant, but it's also about what the plant speaks, how the plant speaks to us in its own energetic language in relationship to our aura or our energy fields. So it's a great name. That's very evocative.
When I got the name Petaltone, so I meditated for that name for a long time. I was living temporarily, staying near Wallingford, and Wallingford is where Dr. Barker, it turns out, used to live, actually. So I wasn't far from him. I didn't know that at the time, which is amazing. I just happened up there for a while. And I was walking down Wallingford High Street, and the name Petaltone came into my mind. It was the right one to use because my first workshops I ran in Hawaii were called The Inner Sound of Plants. Because I came from a sound back and music background into plants, and so I relate to what you're saying, the tone and the sound of plants. The Petaltone. So it does. And also, the thing that inspired me for it as well, I was in Holland and someone had loads of flower essences. I was doing a bowl workshop, or a sound workshop, and I went into this room with about 600 flower essences, and I heard them singing. There was this really beautiful high-pitched tone. I thought, what is that sound? And it was the sound of all these flower essences. They were making a very high-pitched, it was a very high frequency. It wasn't on a human near frequency. There was a high-frequency sound, and I could hear it just briefly, and that was the tone of these plants. They do have a sound. Yeah, there's a lot on that to talk about. For the Petaltone point of view, I like it because it does remind one of that. The plants are singing along. It's lovely. It's a beautiful.
It's very resonant.
Yes. Resonant is the word. Yes, that's the one. Resonant. I must say I do owe a lot of what I've done. The structure that underlies Petaltones is based on the Western mystery tradition, as taught by Douglas Neil Ashby, and so forth. And the stuff I learnt during those years of study. And there is some Eastern mysticism in there as well, the chakra system and some of the other stuff I learned from the Tibetans. But a large part of it is structurally based on Western mystery tradition, principally. It's got the 4 elements in there, and various other things. You recognize the energy body system that we learned how to work with. So, structurally speaking, it has its origins back in that. So thanks for that.
It's a pleasure to hear how all of the studies that you've done throughout all the years have gone into creating this wonderful system. And we want to thank you so much for sharing with us this evening about treatments, workshops, your products, of course. And if anybody's interested, we just really encourage you to give it a go, have a try. Look at David Eastoe's website, www.petaltone.co.uk, and you know, get the benefit of working with nature, the wisdom of nature.
Absolutely. And what I love, David, is what you've been able to accomplish, and I know that it is only going to keep evolving because your passion will just keep creating and the plant kingdom will keep cooperating. And so there's absolutely no limit with what you will be able to do for people. So that is a tremendous way to be of service. And I, for one, thank you for doing what you do and sharing it with us today. And I can't wait to have you back on the show.
Thank you so much, Aaron. It's lovely to meet you on the show, and I'm sure you've got some interesting stuff to offer yourself as well. Your mediumship is something I've always admired in people. Very interesting.
Well, yeah, it's been an interesting. Didn't that 2 hours go fast?
Really fast.
Yeah.
It just flew by.
And thanks so much, Nina, for inviting me. It's been a real pleasure talking to you too, and to everybody. And it's great. I hope that we will meet again on this platform. Yeah.
Great. Yes, we hope so. Well, we're definitely having you back for doing sound, one on sound healing. I really look forward to that, and we'll get it on the calendar quickly. But for all of you who've been in the chat room, quietly listening behind the scenes, we thank you so much. For all of you who've asked questions and contributed, we also are very grateful for that. And for all the people who are listening to this on archive, we hope that you've been really just as inspired as we have sitting here with David and could actually feel the essences being transmitted and locked into the information system digitally and electronically. We look forward to hearing your feedback. You can give us feedback via our website, which is www.virtualvisionfm.com. As per our thing. So, yes, we want to salute you, virtual visionaries, and thank you for participating. And listen, come to our shows. If you're listening on the archive recording, we want you to join in. It's free.
It is.
Except for our pay-per-view. So we're going to go over to you, Erin, just one little more about that.
Well, the pay-per-views are specifically offering a more in-depth view, an in-depth introduction and in-depth participation that you won't get just on a 2-hour show. Not just on a 2-hour show, but on a 2-hour show we were trying to touch as many people as we can, and with a pay-per-view event it's more localized and it's more intimate, and you do have the one-on-one interaction for a period of time, so it's very well worth your time and energy and effort to attend these things. There's going to be so many more develop in the coming months, but we'd like you to stay tuned and at least consider what we're offering. And we will hopefully have Nick Humphreys back on the show with us again. He's been absent for quite some time. He's been back and forth to Norway and very, very busy in his neck of the woods. And Ted, it was an anomaly this evening. He couldn't make it, and we understand and wish him well. He's not ill or anything. He's just, having some downtime, and that's what we all need. And hopefully we'll see him back with us next week. Nina, thank you, thank you, thank you. What a marvelous interview with David, and I've loved every minute of it. To everyone in the chat room, thank you for your participation too, and those in the archives. We look forward to having you join us one day soon on Virtual Vision FM, your platform for all things spiritual. See you next week.